Today, I'm chatting with Lindsay Renovales of Empower Your Spaces. She started her business in 2019 as a way to get out of corporate America. After working as a tax accountant for over 15 years, she knew that it was time to put the pedal to the metal and get her pro organizing business up and running. She loves helping people find peace in their spaces and brings order to their clutter. Welcome to the show, Lindsay.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited for you and your new venture.
Thank you. I know. So Lindsay's like an OG pro organizer boot camper from like 3 years ago. And she was
Yeah.
part of my, original like kind of beta group back in the day before it was on Udemy. And I just love that you have stuck with it with Empower Your Spaces. Before we jumped on, she was chatting through, all the recent clients she's had and things like that. So, kudos to you for sticking it out even through the pandemic.
Yeah, it was fun. I still even had some clients during that. We could be in an open space garage. It still worked.
Yep, empowering their spaces to get organized even throughout COVID.
Yeah.
So tell us about yourself. Obviously, as an accountant and specifically in taxes, you have to be really organized. So I
Yeah.
imagine you're, just naturally organized, but kind of tell us how you fell into this field.
So I think I've always been a little organizer and I didn't even really know it. I think I grew up like constantly like rearranging my room and putting stuff together in different ways and organizing. And then obviously in the professional world, you know, doing taxes and all that kind of stuff, you have to be very organized, especially it's the paperwork and getting everybody's receipts in order and all of the, documentation all correct. And so it became, actual paper. And then it was like the digital world and getting everything digitally. And I always loved that aspect of it. I was always a very organized and very detail oriented in that area and implemented a lot of like filing systems in different places that I worked and digitally, organizing different stuff. So I think deep down, I knew that there was something else out there for me. And then when, my job quit on me, I didn't really have any choice but to kind of stick with, what I had kind of started with you in the boot camp, not knowing, I think I told you like, oh, well, this is going to be like a year down the line. I'm going to make it be a side hustle and then it's going to, turn into the real deal. And then it was like maybe 3 months later after I'd started the boot camp with you, I was like, oh, it has to be like 100% real, like right now. So what do I do? Send me all the stuff right this second. I need all of the things.
Yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes God, the universe, whomever has different plans for us, right? And
Yes.
I
Yes.
know that you had reached that kind of just the end of your rope of just like,
Yeah.
okay, I've been at this, giant Fortune 100 company for years and years, and I don't know how to keep my head strong through it. And like that is so draining. I've been there.
Yeah.
It's miserable,
Mhm.
it's no fun to be in a miserable 9 to 5, or let's be honest, an 8 to 8, depending what season it was in taxes.
Yeah, exactly. Never
Yeah.
pleasing and never working enough. That was the struggle. Being in a really toxic work environment was just so emotionally draining. The only thing I could do was to like keep clutter at bay and like keep myself organized in any way, shape, or form. That was how I could like wrap my head around life. So it kind
Yeah.
of
And
just
I
morphed into, oh, I could do this.
For sure. And I think like what you said there makes so much sense, because it's like I think we try to control what we can in those situations because so much of it is out of our control. We can't control who our boss is or what our work assignments are in, to a certain extent, or what, the people that we work with, our coworkers, the pay rate that we have, like as a business owner, we can control all of that. I can not talk to people I don't like. I can not work for people I don't like. I can not accept money from people I don't like, but as a, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5er, you don't have those opportunities. And so I love what you said there of like, I was trying to control what I could because it gives you back that sense of power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was on leave from work, I think, when I first found you. And then I was just literally like organizing every piece of my house while I was on leave, just thinking like that would make me feel better. And then I happened to be doing it one day. And then I think I saw like something was coming out, like I think something, I was doing something for somebody else and they were like, you know, you could do this. And I was oh, like, oh, really? Like that's like a thing, like people do that. I don't know why, like it didn't really hit me, you know, like, oh, maybe I could do this business. Okay, let's check it out. So
Seriously. And that I hear that so many times. I hear that probably daily of like, I never knew that this was a thing. I had heard of a housekeeper and I had heard of a junk removal company, but I'd never heard of professional organizing. Because back in the day, before the Home Edit show and the Marie Kondo show, like nobody really knew what this was. You know, it was
I
like,
just thought it was for like crazy big like hoarders. And I was like, I am not working with that much. Like that's intense. That's too much. In my head, it wasn't like people weren't hiring you for the fun, like cute jobs, you know, it was the big dirty jobs. And I was like, that's not for me. So when I realized it was fun, cute jobs, I was like, oh, I can do that.
right? You're like, more of that, please. So
Yeah.
how did you come up with your business name?
So I think I wrote down just a ton of words and thought like, okay, you know, obviously the spaces in your house are, you know, important and that's what I will be focusing on. And then something in that time frame in the end of 2019, I think I was reading a book or I don't know, Audible or something, and empower or something was around it. And so that word was in my head. And I had an iteration before, but to be honest, I don't even remember what the first attempt at a name was. It wasn't the best. And so I would like throw out names to my family, like, what do you think of this? Okay, what about this one? And they're like, I don't know. And so Empower Your Spaces came and they were like, okay, that one wins. Okay.
It's so perfect. And I think for the stage of life like that you were at, you know, in early 2019, when all of this kind of came about, I think empowerment is such a awesome word to use because you were getting ready to step into that, you know, organizer expert, that pro organizing queen, so to speak. And so empowering not just your clients, but empowering yourself to really step into that. I can see how it, you know, all kind of came about for a reason, like whatever book you were reading or wherever you found that word, like it was like meant to be.
For sure.
I love it. And then with your brand fonts and colors and logo, I remember in the boot camp, you did this so quickly. You were like, look, Melissa, I made business cards. What do you think? I was like, holy cow. Okay, let's do this. So how did you kind of go through that process?
It was quick. And I think I kind of always gravitate towards the teal, hence the shirt. And so the teal blue just makes me at peace. So I was like, well, I'm going to be seeing this a lot and dealing with the color a lot, you know, in websites and all that kind of stuff. So I was like, well, we're just going to go with that. And then something like a fun font, like kind of came across and I just went like home organizer. All right, go.
Yeah. And it's
sometimes you just can't think too hard about it.
Seriously. And it's such a punchy, like fun blue, you know, it's not like a boring, like, I don't know, like sailor blue or like a, you know, grandma china cabinet blue or whatever. Like, it's like this punchy, I don't know. I think it matches your personality too, where like, yes, it's cool and it's soothing, but it's also like, okay, I'm going to punch you up a little bit. So let's get this done. Yeah. And so what types of clients do you love to serve? Like, I know one time you came with me to the dirtiest job ever, and it was like in this, I just remembered this, I like totally forgot about this, but we had this what did they do? It was like a welding company. They made these giant,
had a lot of steel and metal and stuff.
Yeah, they made like giant doors for luxury homes, and these doors cost like, I think like $20,000 each or something crazy. But it was basically this huge workshop that was probably like, you know, 5,000, 6,000 square feet. And so Lindsay and I show up in like our gloves and like our clothes to get dirty, and we're like going through this. So obviously we don't like organizing those types of spaces, but what types of clients do you love to serve?
I love like helping busy moms. I have 3 kids, so I know exactly what it's like to have a house that is constantly in chaos. that constantly, like the second after you clean up a room, it's dirty again. So it's very, very hard. And people are always like, oh, you must have the most organized home. I'm like, I have 3 kids. So I try and we have systems, but that doesn't mean that it's always kept up, but it's easy to clean up because you have those systems. So I like helping people in that area. I have kind of found myself doing a lot of downsizing. I have a lot of experience with that. And so that has kind of been a referral that has kind of just kept happening from other people. So that's kind of fun. I love a good pantry. I cannot get enough of them. I'm constantly even just redoing mine. My husband's like, it's a small space. Like there's nothing else you can do. And then I love a good closet too. I love clothes. I always wanted to be like a fashion designer, and I worked retail in college and high school. So I kind of like helping people with that area of their home is just really fun for me because it's almost like playing dress up.
Yeah. And the best part, like, I'm just going to say this, is when you help a luxury homeowner and they have a closet full of designer stuff and they're just like, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it, consign it, donate it. Like the amount of times that I would look at like a beautiful bag and be like, okay, so you're just going to like put, give this to like Salvation Army or the vets for whatever. A lot of times I would trade my service and be like, well, can you just not pay me for this 4-hour session? And can I just have this like $1,000 bag?
There you go. That's a good thing. I'm going to keep that in mind next time. If I ever have a crazy luxury client like that, I will be doing that for sure.
Yep. And most of the time they're like, sure. They're like, I don't have to pay you your $300 or your $400 for this session. Great. Let's, trade for all my crap that's in a trash bag over there.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
I think it's a really easy way for them. It's something that affects the person every day, right? You're in your pantry every day. You're in your closet or your dresser every day to get dressed. Like training those spaces into something that makes it easier and more functional for them is just like, it makes me feel really good. And like, I don't know, I love that if I can come back to them and they're like, oh no, it's still organized. I'm like, yay, it's still working. I love it.
That's the best. And that's when you truly know that you've implemented a system and not just like put stuff in a bin and called it a day with a label on it. Like you've actually trained them to say, okay, this is what happens when you get home from the sports activities with the 3 kids, and so-and-so's baseball bag goes here and so-and-so's play preschool bag goes here, and this is where all the shoes go, and this, and those are the true systems that I think people carry out for years and years after the session. And like, it's just interesting to think about how many families and lives you actually touch on a daily basis without even like knowing it.
Yeah, for sure. I like having the kids involved too. If it's part of the process, that a part of the space that you're organizing, they have to be understanding and they have to know, like, this is my space for this type of like, toy. This is where my shoes go. This is where my lunchbox goes, because that helps the mom and the dad or whoever out so much, because I'm constantly like, this isn't where this goes. Where does it go? And they're like, oh, sorry, my shoe basket, like that kind of stuff just at my house. So I know that it's very helpful, especially once they get older and they can read and they can do their own stuff. It's empowering to them to know that they're in charge of their own things. And I hope that then when they get older, they'll know that these systems can work and they'll do it at their own house. So
Definitely. And really training the parents, to become those role models and teach their kids how to stay organized. I know when I was a kid, both of my parents worked a lot, and I remember, cooking dinner for myself. I learned how to make like Kraft mac and cheese when I was like, 6 or 7 years old. And so I knew where like all the stuff was, but that was always empowering to me, right? Because you take ownership of like, I know how to do the dishes. I know where this goes. And I think it gives kids confidence to say, oh, I can do this, instead of like mom does everything for me, and that's not sustainable either, right? Especially after you have 1 or 2 kids. So
yeah, it's not, and it's not good for your sanity either. So I feel like I'm a big proponent of like lists and charts and that kind of stuff. And I've put together, not on my new website, but on my old website, I had a link to a bunch of lists that I had made because I just made them myself. And I was like, well, maybe somebody else will want it. And I put them out there. But on my new site, I haven't put them up yet. Just things that we use around here. You know, you come home from school. These are the things you got to do before whatever, or during the summer when you wake up. These are the things you got to do when you wake up. Don't just like go straight to the TV, go straight to the iPad. You know, these are the things that are going to help your family members and help each other. So I like doing those kinds of things for people too. Lists are my savior.
I think it makes so much sense to have that as sort of your ideal niche too, like your client demographic, because I don't have children. And so I don't know the struggle, right? I don't, I can pretend I know, and I can imagine like how hard it must be and things like that, and try to, implement those systems. But for me, busy moms were never necessarily like my go-to client, because I felt like other moms in the pro organizer community could honestly serve them better than I could. So I like that you have found that for yourself, like I always say, your ideal client is a former version of you. And so for you to be able to really speak to these pain points, like in your marketing and your messaging and I know you've been doing a ton of like Instagram videos and stuff like that lately. Like, I think that is so powerful from a marketing standpoint.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely good. I mean, I think that when I was working the 9 to 5, having the lists and having the organization and having the system in place, like, helped me, because you get home from the end of the day and you're just like, your brain is fried. And the last thing you want to do is be picking up after the kids or not knowing where something is. And so you said you don't have kids, but just imagine that anything you put down is not where you left it. That's basically what it's like.
Yeah, I think I would go nuts, to be honest. I think, like, before we jumped on here, we were chatting about, you do have your 3 children at home with you. It's summertime, and it obviously with the pandemic, they've all been home and everything. And so it's like, okay, mom's going to go do this for an hour. Like, please, stay in your rooms. And it's just
stay in your room for an hour. They're like, an hour? I'm like, you'll be fine. You're here anyways. So yeah, I mean, and they've actually, it's interesting because they see me at home organizing, doing things around here, getting stuff for clients that they love, coming to the Container Store with me. That's like their favorite thing. Well, my older girls, my 5-year-old, not so much. And so my oldest, she's like constantly, when she's in the mood, will like organize her stuff. Like, she just likes to have everything together. And you even commented one time, she made this whole list of all these videos that she wanted to watch. Like, she's very detail oriented, and just, so it's funny how what you do like rubs off on your children. So I'm like, who wants to fill up the cereal boxes? Like when we come home from the grocery and they're like, oh, me,
I love that. And I think that's, being such a good role model for them. Like, I can't imagine, the mindset shifts that have occurred for you since leaving your full-time job and leaving kind of the corporate Fortune 100 world to now. I mean, I imagine they love having you around more and not being so stressed out about your 9 to 5. So have you seen like any shifts within that area?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is never having to ask for like a sick day for my kid, never having to like, oh, I got to take him to the doctor, and worrying about like when I can get an appointment. Like, get an appointment, we go, being able to just take vacations when my husband can take a vacation or whenever their breaks are, and not having to like stress about that, or not feeling guilty, because there were, in the tax world, months at a time where you're on like a no vacation allowed. Like, don't even think about it. I didn't take a winter vacation for 15 years. Like, I never like went on a long journey to the snow. We would go up to the mountains locally when it happened to snow. And that was like our experience with the snow, because from October till April, like, you were not allowed to go on vacation. So there was like no holiday trips, like, and unless it was like a quick weekend, maybe you could get a couple days. So that, being able to be in charge of my own schedule, because that was always the hardest part as a mom, wanting to like be there for practices, be there to run them around from here or there, or like when I would shift jobs, making sure that my new job knew, okay, I'm going to work early until about like 2:30, and then I got to go. Like, I got pickups to do. I got places they need to be. Like, they're my number one priority. And so it took me a while to realize that I had a voice in the corporate world and that I should be speaking up for myself. And it was really difficult to get to that place. I had to actually go through some real traumas of miscarriages to realize that, like, nobody is putting you first, like only you are putting you first. So like, unless you ask for what you really need, you're not going to get it. And so when I made that shift, it didn't make a lot of people happy, and I wasn't probably their favorite employee because I was leaving, but I was like, this is my world, this is my life, and your deadline, it will be met, but it's going to be met when I can finish it. Like, it's not going to be done just because you happen to feel like I need to be in the office today. Like, and so being able to not have that and not have somebody constantly berating me for like missing an email or, you know, making a slight mistake on something. I mean, people make mistakes. And so I know myself right now in my own business, like, I am not doing everything I want to be doing because life's happening around you, stuff goes on, but only I know that something didn't get done. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have some crazy VP yelling at me saying like, oh, you know, where were you in this meeting, or why weren't you on the Zoom, or, you know, we're going to be meeting boom, boom, boom all day, but so you won't get any of your real work done because you're going to be sitting in a, you know, conference room all day looking at your watch like, why are we here? You know, so I do not miss any of that. That's probably the best part of being your own like boss, is be able to just call the shots. And I think that they definitely benefit because they have me around. I wasn't around for mornings for 10 years. I was gone before they woke up for 10 years.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Wow. Yeah. That freedom and that flexibility, I think, are priceless. You know, no one can give you that sense of freedom like owning a business can. And no one can give you that flexibility like being your own boss can.
Yeah. Because if you're not out there and you're not marketing, you're not getting customers. So like, you get it, like, you know, it needs to get done and you know that you need to be out there doing it. But like, at the end of the day, if something came up, like, you'll just do it tomorrow. You know, the world isn't ending because you didn't get on Instagram and make a post.
Exactly. And there's always another client. I always tell myself there's more where that came from. You know, if it didn't work out the first time or whatever happens, you know, there's always that abundance mindset of there's more where that came from.
Yeah, for sure there is.
So where can people find you, Lindsay? I know that after this, they're going to want a sneak peek into your business on Instagram and Facebook and maybe your website. Where can people find you?
So Empower Your Spaces on Instagram and on Facebook. And that's where I am. I've kind of been trying to do a lot of the fun reels that people are doing on Instagram to kind of give you some fun tips. I talk about, you know, what it's like, you know, in the real world with the kids and different things we have, you know, around here. And I like to reshare like a lot of the places and spaces that I've done before to kind of give inspiration, but to know that, you know, your space can, you know, become decluttered very easily. It doesn't, you don't have to try and do it alone and get discouraged.
Yep. You're here to empower them, empower yourself, and empower the spaces. I love it. Thank you so much for being on today. It was so great to catch up with you.
Yeah, it was so fun. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever. I think that job was the last time I saw you, like in person.
I don't even know when that was. I mean, it was definitely pre-pandemic, but maybe 2 years ago, because I haven't personally organized in 2 years. So I think that was probably one of the last, that was the last job where I was like, okay, I'm good. I'm going to pivot into the consulting side of things for real now.
No, it was really fun. Thank you so much. I'm so excited for you. I love listening to your podcast and all of your stuff. So
yes. Okay, well, thank you. And everyone can tune in on Wednesdays for new episodes.